box could leave you messed up and fractured. Block these uppercuts, they may leave you captured. May the best fighter win and win again. Battle to the top until his life ends. But if his life ends and he starts to decay, may one of his street soldiers avenge things.
See you talking to the game, couldn't be talking to me. I got enough to beat and more soldiers to bury. You know we just clicked in and made you realize this game is twice as hard. You see that with your own eyes.
You're on the way to choose your type of life, cause you gotta. I tell you from now, which fighter will be the hotter. I don't think you want this one, just practice. Just challenge me when you're ready with your tactics. High punch, the spin kicks, watch your back split. I see you in the air when I make you backflip.
Get it on down. Select to make your first pick. Get it on down. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Get it on down. Choose and pick the best one. Get it on down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Get it on down. Select to make your first pick. Get it on down. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Get it on down. Choose and pick the best one. Get it on down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Get it on down. Select to make your first pick. Get it on down. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Get it on down. Choose and pick the best one. Get it on down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Select to make your first pick. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Choose and pick the best one. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
One box could leave you messed up and fractured. Block these uppercuts, they may leave you captured. May the best fighter win and win again. Battle to the top until his life ends. But if his life ends and he starts to decay, may one of his street soldiers avenge things.
See you talking to the game, couldn't be talking to me. I got enough to beat and more soldiers to bury. You know we just clicked in and made you realize this game is twice as hard. You see that with your own eyes.
You're on the way to choose your type of life, cause you gotta. I tell you from now, which fighter will be the hotter. I don't think you want this one, just practice. Just challenge me when you're ready with your tactics. High punch, the spin kicks, watch your back split. I see you in the air when I make you backflip.
Get it on down. Select to make your first pick. Get it on down.
What is up, interwebs? It is November 11th, 2025. Welcome back to another episode. Matter of fact, episode 52 of the Gaming Academy. It's your headmaster here at the Academy, GQ Asian Dude, and welcome back for another show of the evening. Man, so Street Fighter 3 Third Strike came out on May 12, 1999, and that soundtrack is still fire. Like, it's over, 26 years old, and it's still good. So that's how you know something is timeless. Or maybe I'm just old and I'm nostalgic, but hey, I love it. Love it enough to make it as an intro song to the Academy. So anyways, welcome back to another classroom session. The doors are open and it's time for class, guys. Actually, episode number 52. Tonight, we're cranking the difficulty up to max. That's right. Max. MAX. This is play on hard mode night, where every challenge, every misstep, and every you died screen is just another lesson in leveling up. Tonight, we got a packed syllabus for you. We got another Memory Card Chronicles taking us through an epic week in gaming history, from the console wars of the old to the games that defined a generation, like Third Strike. Another session of Quick Bytes and Rumor Mill fires up the newsroom with headlines hotter than a rage quit lobby. And Attack also returns with Blazing Ace Nelson teaching us the way of momentum and the art of movement, speed, and flow in gaming combat. That's your boy right there. And finally, we'll wrap up the night with another final boss, a deep reflection on what it means to play on hard mode. So grab your controllers, check your loadout. Let's queue up for another night of XP gains, laughs, and lessons here at the Gaming Academy. Take a seat, because class is now in session. Okay, now, you know I don't do this alone, so let's meet up the other faculty members here. Let's introduce them, starting with your tech dojo extraordinaire. Oh, double click. There you go, Ace. Yeah, smoke bombs disappear real quick.
So me and my smoke alarm say hello. But how's everybody been? I hope y'all had yourselves a fantastic week. We've got quite a bit coming your way, not just on our own individual channels, but also right here in class. Like tonight's topics, tonight's games, and of course tonight's session of the tech. Looking forward to putting plenty on your plate for you to digest over the course of the week. Hopefully y'all did your homework from last week too, because that's going to come into play.
There you go. Hey man, where there's smoke, there's fire, and Ace is here to bring it. That's all I'm saying. So look at that. We got Jagos already in the chat. What's up, Jagos? Of course, the guy to bring you the news from Night City, or upstairs, tragically.
I'm glad you called out Fire Alarm Coon very early this time, so everyone knows. Man, it's been another week already. That's crazy. It feels like it just flew by.
It did, yeah, for sure. Hey, I mean, here it is again. Next thing you know, it's year 3. Oh my god.
Right, yeah, and hopefully this time I won't have my entire unit short out again. But hey, like talking like a real smoke bomb. That's what happened to me there, apparently.
Yeah, well, sorry to hear that, but hey, it's good to you're here now, and that's what matters.
Yeah, I'm here now, and things are happening in the video game sphere. So I want to dig
There,
into it tonight.
there is a lot. I'll let you cover a majority of the news tonight, but there was like one article I really wanted to chat about. But with that said, I know we got a lot to cover as always. So let's blaze through the memories of the memory card kind, and let's get the show on the road. How about that?
Let's do this.
All right, let's boot it up. Where is it? All right, guys. So this year we are replacing This Week in Gaming History with what we call Memory Card Chronicles. We're gonna pick a game from each day of the week, from Sunday through Saturday, and we're gonna just talk briefly a little bit about it and kind of what memories these certain games bring about. So starting with the first one on November 9th, for me, I chose Tetris Effect. Like PS4 came out in 2018, and for those that everybody knows what Tetris is, right? But for me specifically, Tetris Effect is just basically like a nice chill game to relax to. It's got awesome music, awesome vibes. So just grab your favorite food, relax at home, put on Tetris Effect. If you have VR, that's even better. You don't have to have it, but just sit down on your couch or your bed, put some headphones on, play Tetris Effect, forget about the world, and just relax, right? So for those out there looking for a nice chill game, I think this is available also in a variety of different handhelds as well. So check it out when you guys get a chance.
Okay.
All right. So let's see here. And Nick, you had a classic one. I see. All right.
I did have a classic one.
There you go.
A classic one for me.
Well, I had my share in time with it, so it's pretty good.
No, I appreciate you bringing up Tetris Effect. I remember I just pulled up some gameplay of that, and I just forgot how much like the visuals of that one too are just crazy cool. Definitely like a good twist on what Tetris was. Like you said, the music I remember being really great, kind of standing out, but kind of just the twist with like the more visual side of it. It reminded me of what I liked about Lumines. Luminous, however you pronounce it, however you decide to pronounce it. Just being
I say
really
Luminous.
into that. Yeah, Luminous. I think that's how it's supposed to go. I don't know. Throw what you will on it, but it's a lot of fun. And Halo 2 was definitely my pick. One of the prompts we kind of talk about as we're going into Memory Card Chronicles is just like, where were you when this game dropped? Like, just talking about the memories that we have and trying to share it with people, right? I wanted to pick this game for this date because it's a big part of my personal background, and I wanted to see where you two were when this game released. Now, for me, this was my first shift at GameStop when I was applying. Right as I went up to college in Bellingham, I applied at the Bellingham Sunset GameStop, and my first day of work was the night shift. Was
they
the
threw
midnight
you into
launch.
the fire, didn't they?
Yeah, the midnight launch of Halo 2 was
Damn.
my
Holy
first.
shit.
My first shift, because obviously you need to staff up for the holidays. That's the big thing about GameStop, especially at the time, was you bring a lot of temp people on for the holidays, and maybe you'll stick around, after the holidays if you're good, or if they've got space, one of the above, or maybe both. But for me, I remember very clearly being in the line for the collector's editions, like the 10 case ones, the limited collector's editions, and getting paper receipts from people. And attaching their names to it and like handing out when they would show up. Right. So like my love of midnight launches, my love of staying up late playing games, my love of getting into LAN parties on campus, and my love of like midnight launches all kind of culminated in the night of Halo 2 launching. And I was a big fan of the first Halo game, but Halo 2 really started my entire journey of like 15 years in video game retail. At multiple stores started then and there. So I'm going to kick that question to you two. Where were you two when this game dropped? And chat, feel free to let me know as well. Jagos, so you're already talking. Where were you when this game dropped?
Go ahead, Ace. I don't know where you were.
Man, as far as where I was when Halo 2 dropped, I was chilling with a friend, modding his Xbox so that way we could play Neo Geo games on it.
Sure.
I mean,
That's
I
cool.
went with him to a midnight release for Halo 2,
Yeah.
but we pretty much spent most of the day playing like Samurai Showdown 3 and World Heroes Perfect.
You're just putting all those name games in there, huh?
Yep.
All right. I got you.
But still, just it was like Halo 2. Like when Halo 2 dropped, it just felt so intrinsically tied to the Xbox. I mean, like it's one of those games where you just see certain colors or color combinations like green and black, and you immediately think the Xbox UI, and then Halo and Halo 2 especially.
You think they were going for like the Matrix look with like the Xbox UI? Because I feel like that seems relevant at the time, 2000
Yeah,
like era, you know?
I would think so.
Yeah. And it's
I mean-
very like distinguished of the Xbox to have that UI, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, for me especially, not only like the original Xbox UI with that green, like you said, like hitting that kind of like Matrix, almost like you're in the mainframe kind of like feel. But like even the 360 with its blades interface, I still love that UI.
I love that too.
with
Yeah.
it.
It's cool.
Like one of these days, if we ever talk about our favorite UIs, if ever comes to conversation, like absolutely Blades.
Crossbar versus blades.
Yeah, the XMB
Yeah.
versus blades.
For sure. Where I was actually in 2004, believe it or not, I don't have a lot to say about it. I was taking a break on video games. I was focusing on myself. To my knowledge and to my recollection, I was probably couch surfing in Chicago, and in 2004, I was probably at my buddy David's house. The guy that I was watching Star Ocean 2, play Star Ocean 2 and ask who the fuck Nail was. that guy, that guy was able to kind of like, I was going through some rough times. And I just remember his brother would come down and be like, my boys are coming over, we're playing Halo 2 and they're bringing their consoles. And so they would just bring, and we'd order Little Caesars and they just bring all their, there was like 4 people with 4 CRTs down there. And I had no idea what Halo 2 was. I know Halo, right? But that was the first time me hearing about Halo 2. And it was a good time. And after that, I was just thinking to myself, how come PlayStation cool characters like Master Chief? You know, so that's kind of like my story with Halo 2.
Yeah, I know that there was that big kind of push with like matchmaking and ranking, especially in this one. This is when like it really kind of leapt up a little bit. There's always a lot of fun to be had with like the original Halo, absolutely the iconic like maps. Some people just really wanted it back as well, but like matchmaking online definitely took a big step up with 2 from what I remember. But it'd been a while since I played it. Anyway,
Cool. All right.
That's what my pick was for that day.
And Ace, you wanted to cover something for this day, right?
Yeah. So my pick for the 9th isn't necessarily a game so much as, an industry happening that I still have, I guess, some connection to. And November 9th, back in 23, so 2 years out now, was the day that Digital Extremes actually closed their publishing arm.
Oh.
Now, leading up to that point, they were on as the publisher for what I guess is now something of their competitor, that being Wayfinder, the hero-based looter beat 'em up from Airship Syndicate. So the folks that brought us Battle Chasers. But as Digital Extremes was acting as a publisher, there were, needless to say, truckloads of missteps and a lot of, a lack of communication and some, mishandling, not just of the property, but also of funds. And, Digital Extremes wound up getting hit with layoffs. And in response to that, they basically had to close down their publishing arm and just stick to solely development as opposed to publishing. So, from there, basically, Wayfinder, Airship Syndicate split off from Digital Extremes so that way they could, rework and finish Wayfinder now as, instead of a live service game, a offline, a standalone. And A lot of folks could say that it turned out so much the better for it because at that point, it was one of those things where they didn't have to worry so much about, any of the usual live service trappings. Everything that was previously available through, you know, through unique currency was now just made to be unlockable in game. So, yep,
Good move by them, 100%.
yeah. So it was definitely a good move, just not the best of circumstances that led to it.
Yeah. I mean, that's I think it's good to pivot and to adapt, right? Because if things were promised and not made, you have to kind of make it up to them in some way or form, right? I get you.
Yep.
And that was in 2023, right? Just to recap that. Okay. And then we got Wayfinder in. So it's like something good that still came out of something bad. I know like right now layoffs is a big topic right now in the gaming industry, so it's pretty rough. Rough out there in them streets.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
But I mean, it showcases the importance of not only finding a good publisher, but it showcases just how sometimes finding a good publisher, all you really need to do is just look at the people working around you, and it's like, we can publish. It'll take some effort, but we can do it.
Real quick, I honestly feel that all these layoffs are going to lead to like really powerful indie studios. Like if these guys get all together and network, they can really build some awesome teams without the kind of like the red tape of AAA.
They could.
They could.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of things have to go right, but I mean, kind of the darling of that right now is the Expedition 33 team, former Ubisoft devs. Got together, put that thing out there.
Yep, and that's going to be relevant to my topic later. So
sweet.
All right. Next one here for the 10th, a darling of mine that started my addiction. I don't know if the word addiction is the word, but my appreciation for the COD series. So technically, on what is this, November 11th, right? November 10th, Call of Duty World at War came out on 2008 for the PS3, and this was in the Pacific theater, right, of the Call of Duty, because there was like the France, the Europe one, and this was the Pacific theater.
Yep.
This one was probably the most exciting one for me because it had like vehicles also, and that was like a big thing at the time. It had the guy from 24 in it. What's his name?
Kiefer Sutherland?
Yeah, Kiefer Sutherland was in this as a voice, I believe, as one of like your platoon commanders, which is pretty cool. And I wanted to add here, as far as my core memory for this is a couple things. So my memory of this is when I was living with a roomie. I was also roomie with a Japanese exchange student. I told you this, but I was playing this game, and most of my enemies were Japanese.
Oh no!
So I was like, yeah, this is awkward. And then that's pretty much how I felt about that. So I just didn't play it in front of him. Also, at the same time, this right here, and a lot of people don't know this. This is the first entry to the Black Ops series without being at Black Ops, because it actually reckons back to the characters in this game when they talk about it down the road before Black Ops 1.
So kind of like the first time they had like a continued continuity.
Yeah,
really?
they reference this like this event and also like a certain soldier in this game. So it's kind of weird. Like I didn't expect like Call of Duty lore to be like that close, but like it's there. That's kind of neat, right? But yeah, I that's my recommendation for the 10th there.
I mean, I definitely get your feel on that, because that's kind of the reason I started to play the Modern Warfare like 2 and 3 games, was just because I had a continuing story or characters or a reason to keep playing it. Like there was through lines. So yeah, that's a pretty cool thing to like be told about. I didn't even realize that.
Honestly, like when I played the World War Call of Duty, the newer one, it kind of gave me, ironically, PTSD playing this, a good PTSD memory playing it. So that's all I gotta say.
What a nice call out for you to make on Veterans Day.
Yeah, man, I just thought about that. So not great, but hey, respect. I appreciate y'all. Thank you for service. But yeah, let's move on to the next. What were you going to talk about, Nikos?
Oh, I'll give you one guess as what's on my list.
There you go, right there.
So my call out for the 10th this time around was from 2015, which was Rise of the Tomb Raider. So this was the second game in the reboot trilogy that came out. I definitely wanted to call this one out in particular just because it was my personal fave of the re-release trilogy. There was a lot more choice this time around compared to the first one. The first one had great spectacle. It gave lore story like this really cool cinematic value, and the deaths were brutal in the first game. This one just built on it, and that's why I like it as my personal favorite. Is it took the good things from the first game reboot game and then just improved on it. So this one had a lot more choice, not only in like the different surfaces or different ways you can get through a lot of like areas, like you can decide to go high or go low, but with this one there was different choices in combat. You can choose to be more stealthy if you wanted to. The bow and arrow gave you a lot of like options for it. You can kind of play how you wanted to, and it didn't change the core of the game, right? So there's a lot of reasons to still really like this one. Like I said, I still felt it was the peak. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which came after this, just felt like more of the same, just in a different area. That one had really good cinematic and really good like art direction as well. But this one in particular, I just really liked. Oh, there was also a lot less QTE this time around too. So
as we see a QTE.
yeah, not
That's
too
good.
like it wasn't like, oh, press A to not die, like
Yeah,
one
yeah,
of
yeah.
those kind of ones. Like this one, you can would highlight the trap that you saw and she could shoot it. But like I said, this one was my personal fave. I definitely wanted to call this one out as something that released in the past. Ace, did you play any of the reboots? Did you have a favorite?
No, haven't had the chance to get around to any of the reboot Tomb Raiders yet.
Well, they're talking about rebooting it, right?
Oh my
So,
god.
yeah, who knows how that one's going to turn out? But if you haven't played any of these, I would maybe watch just a video on the first one, then play this one. Rise is still something to this day. It's still fun to play. I like the story a lot, and it really made me appreciate, the changes, because when Uncharted came out, it references a lot of what Tomb Raider built on, and then this Tomb Raider trilogy took a lot of what like Uncharted did in the gaming industry as well. So you can kind of see this like throughput, this kind of like life of these games move along. So it just felt like a good distillation of where we were
Okay.
at the time in that generation of games. That was my call for the 10th.
Yeah, no, it's a very memorable game from what I recall. I did play the first one, and the second one I did not finish, but I did remember because I had it on Xbox One. I did remember a good time from what I recall. From my memory chronicles. All right. All right, moving on to the next day here on the 11th. This is a big one. All right, so this was here. What year was this? 2006. And the PS3 got released in Japan. Don't have a US date on that, but you guys can, you guys probably know that already.
That's a big one.
I just remember this was the jump, right? This was like the thing that would kill the Xbox 360 because Sony and Microsoft were always kind of, head toe to toe. And the Blu-ray thing was like amazing. Like the way they sold it and the way like they marketed it, I was sold. I was like, oh, it's super clean. Like movies are super crisp, right? Holds way more data so you can like make bigger games. That's kind of what I just heard. But we've all talked about this before, but the story of I got my first PS3 was actually kind of random. Like I know I wanted it, and I wanted like the 60 gig one. That was a premium one, right? Because they sold it as, was it 40, 60, 80? Remember? Or was it 40 and 60?
No, I think it was 40, 60. Yeah, it was 40, 60, 80.
Okay. I wanted the 80 one. But the 81 was like $500 or something like that. Probably more, to be honest with you, at the time. I mean, this was over 23 years ago, or 17 years ago. And I just remember like wanting this thing, didn't have the money. I was in college at the time. I was actually like just taking a break from games. And the only thing I was playing was like my PS2 and whatever games I had on, just already had saved, not in storage. And then, shout out to mom. She just randomly goes, here's your PS3. Congratulations. And I was like, what? I was like super shocked. We just went to Best Buy. I went to go do something. And next thing you know, I was in the car holding a PS3. And it was just like, there was just a surprise. It was just like, here you go. You deserve it. I think it was because I was in school. So So she was like, "Good job, you're almost done," because I did graduate like a quarter earlier. So yeah, shout out to mom. Thank you for the PS3 and the memories, because this thing was a beast. It played PS1, PS2, PS3 games, and also had every kind of like memory slot that you can think of. At the time, it had the best like memory hub whatsoever.
Yeah.
What about you guys? Any specifics
Well,
on the
shout out
PS3?
to Ultra Brag Guy for calling out the price earlier. At launch, there was only two editions: the 20 and the 60 gigabyte.
Okay,
At
that's what I
launch,
thought. Okay.
the 60 gig was $599.
Okay.
The basic was $499. One of the reasons really kind of being the fact that this was a Blu-ray player, when at the time there wasn't that many Blu-ray players on the market, at least like widely available. That was just starting to become a thing. That was just starting to become a format. This was the format wars generation. Sony in their Blu-ray, and then Microsoft in their HDD discs.
HD
Remember that
DVD.
little small 360 drive that would come with you could buy separately for your Xbox 360, and you can watch HD DVD discs as well. So that's one of the reasons like you felt you had to pay more, or at least that was their intention behind it when the 3 came out. I remember
Yeah.
seeing like the prototype boomerang controller, that silver thing, and the jokes about like even if you tried to throw it in the trash, it would just come back. Like I remember that the most from this generation. It wasn't until later when they started releasing different editions that you realized that the 60 gigabyte one was just that much better. The backwards compatibility in it, the ability to play all of those older games,
Yeah.
and not being able at the time to really buy all those games on the digital storefront. That came later. So that's one of the reasons, if you're ever at like retro video game conventions or even a retro video game store, that's why the 60 gig holds that value a little bit more. That's why people are selling it for more.
Yeah, the Fat Boy. Yeah, it's actually like I was shocked on the size of this thing. This thing was a monster. Not in comparison to the PS5, it's tiny, but man, this thing was huge at the time. And a fun fact, Ultra Bright Guy, if the Xbox Pro, the 360, like the black one that they released, right? Because they had like a special one. If that had an internal HD DVD, Xbox would have won me over in that generation. I was waiting for that to be announced, but instead they actually kept it as an
Can you
external drive.
imagine the nightmare that situation would be though with red rings? The
Oh, yeah.
OneDrive stuck all the time and that thing died. Imagine stuffing an HD DVD drive on top of that in there.
Yeah.
Oof. Adjusted for inflation, by the way, that launch price as of this last year would be equal to $934 today.
Oh, so an Xbox One. Series
So
1.
the current pricing we're seeing.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's a great console. I think this was the big jump, right, from PS2 to PS3 was the big jump from like online gaming and stuff. So it was a big deal for me, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
One more time, shout out to mom.
Shut up,
All
Mom.
right. Shout out, mom.
For me, like as far as the PS3 goes, for me, it was I came in late to the party. I mean, I had friends that had the PS3, but I didn't really, get my own. I didn't get my own until 2010. And, for the folks that actually have me as a friend on the PlayStation Network, now you know where the 2010 is from.
Nice. Yeah, and it was also free to play online when it first released. Then that whole debacle with the internet happened. So that was one of the selling points.
But the first games I got for that were Mortal Kombat 9, Cross Edge, and Sengoku Basara 3.
Oh yeah, you must have imported that.
Well, I actually got the US release for Samurai Heroes.
That was on PS3.
Mhm.
I think you're right. I'm getting old. Right on. Did you ever get a PS3, Nick, or was it like a late thing for you?
I did eventually. I was more of
Yeah.
a 360 guy. I had that for a couple years, and I bought the PS3 when the Slim 120 model came out.
Got it.
So I didn't
Second
really
gen.
have. Yeah, I didn't have any like PS1 or PS2 games I really sat on. It wasn't until I started collecting those a little bit, like the titles that I wanted to try when I was younger or friends had, whatever reason. So I bought a PS3 then. Also, because the price point was better for me, and I wanted a Blu-ray player, so I just
That's perfect.
at that
Yeah.
time.
That
It's
was
like
pretty
they
much how I got mine. I mean, got it up here at the pawn shop right outside the mall for like $100.
Not shady at all.
Why does PS3 say Bob on it? All right, so he had speaking of Bob or BGE.
BGE. Yeah, this is my call out for 11/11. Not doing Skyrim this year because that was 11/11/11, one of my other favorite midnight launches. But Beyond Good and Evil is a game I wanted to call out. This one out in 2003, the original release, as something that I remember being kind of like a standout at this time. I remember on Xbox I had Psychonauts. A lot of my friends really liked it, and the gameplay for this one kind of felt similar. I mean, with the way that you kind of traversed around the world and solved puzzles and stuff. So this was one I did play. A friend had it. But I really wanted to call this one out as a game that happened in the past. It was super creative, had a lot of diverse like gameplay elements, and this one did not sell well when it came out. This kind of became one of those cult hit kind of games, like well after the fact. More so, it's like if you were one of the people that played it, if you know, you know, right? When this one
Right.
came around, so even if we never get to see that sequel made, like even I was pretty hyped when they finally announced that, and Gordon Levitt came up on stage and was talking about how, you know, it's going to be community created assets and all this stuff, like, you know, create your thing, show up in the game. And now it's been in development hell ever since. But this just was one of those platforming games that came out that was super unique at the time. And the pacing and the story and the characters, like, was actually pretty compelling from what I remember. Right. So pretty conspiracy filled kind of story, super intriguing with a big mix of just a bunch of different gameplays. Oh, and you know, for the time, really solid like art style, something that's super memorable, very unique characters, and a good soundtrack. So got to shout out a game like that, man, that came in the past, cult hit that still to this day we're waiting on that sequel. You
This
two
is
have
one
any
of the-
experience with this one?
I was gonna say this is one of those games that like need that remake, you know, that like upgrade to the graphics of a modern era, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we got remakes of stuff like Spyro, and God, well, they also did an update for like the Crash
Like
releases.
Crash, yeah.
Yeah. Like
They
the
did
fact that
Medieval.
this hasn't been done, I'm just actually a little surprised they haven't done something,
Yeah.
even like another anniversary, like big update for it, right? Because they could get that out while trying to keep the hype machine for 2 going along and like tie into that. But here we are, man, in the dark. They're not pushing it out because it's not a online service title.
Yeah,
but
yeah, that's like there's no battle pass. There's
We'll
no
see what
seasons of Beyond Good and Evil.
Anyway, that's my
Sad.
call out for that one.
All right, sounds good, man. All right, we're moving on to the 12th here. Rampaging through these. I love it. Well, I have myself another console to shout out. Not that old, but it's still there. It's history now. Came out in 2020. The PS5 came out. I don't have a day on that. Oh yeah, it is the 12th of November. Where were you guys when the PS5 came out? Just sweating to see if you could get one.
Yeah, sweating, super sweaty.
I think this was COVID. We were like all at home trying to get a Sony PlayStation 5 like on it if you had the money for it, right? I know I was like, no, I'll just wait. It was too crazy at the time.
Same.
And I gotta say that, I mean, I could talk about PlayStation 5 all night, but the big thing that really stood out with me in this one is the like not so big jump from the 3 to the 4, right? Because the 3 to the 4 to me was a drastic change in like performance for the PlayStation, probably because they went with like the ATI graphics card, right? Versus like their Blue Cell processor, whatever they called it. And this one from 4 to 5, I was just kind of like, oh, it just runs faster. Like there wasn't, maybe it's 60 frames per second, but as far as like graphically, not art, right? At least to me, not a big difference. Like, because I know when the PS5 came out, they still had PS4 versions of those games too, and I just knew like one ran at 60 frames, the other one ran at 30. To my understanding,
That was pretty much the same with me. It's like taking a look at what the PS5 can do compared to how well things were actually working out with me for the PS4. I was just like, I'll wait. I will cool my heels on that for the time being. And yeah, most of the stuff that was coming out for the 5 also had PS4 versions. So I'd get those, get them cheaper, and they would still run.
Yep.
Yeah, there
So
wasn't a lot of reason for me to jump on the 5 bandwagon as well. At
like
the
immediately,
time,
yeah.
I was contracted through Microsoft, so a lot of stuff I had eyes on. It just made more sense to me when, Game Pass was its value back then to get a Series X instead. The Series X was more powerful. There was more games for me to choose from. It felt like it was a big enough leap in terms of power, and I knew the games would eventually catch up. And by the time they caught up, then I get a PlayStation 5. That's how I kind of mapped out my own kind of personal thing. Also, when I saw the PS5, I was really split on the design. I'll be honest. It looked like some dude with a popped collar, and I didn't care for that. At the same time, I did appreciate that it wasn't just a black box. But once I got them both on my shelf, I really liked the design elements behind the Series X. So it was just one of those things. But yeah, man, I will forever remember the PS5 launch because of the scarcity of it and the fact that the only place, yeah, exactly,
That's the
the
one.
that's the one, that's what I remember from launch. This will really just be the gin of missed potential. So much focus on live service, so many games being spread out in dev cycle, the cost of development, like there's just so few games that I legitimately play on my PS5 and Xbox. And that's complete opposite of the generation before when I really invested in both of those. I have so many PS4 games still. It's just kind of crazy to look back and see that. But yeah, man, that's kind of where I was when the 5 came out.
Yeah, man, honestly, I play more PS4 games on my PS5. That should just tell you how like much slower dev has become, or things more expensive, and also I got to be real with you. A lot of the games on the 5 they're all kind of the same, like, and I mean like pattern wise, like live service, season pass.
Yeah.
It's kind of rough. That actually will tie into something I showed you guys earlier in the Discord. So, but yeah, that is the PS5. I did not get it immediately. I waited, I think, a year, almost 2 years, I think, to get one. So
Yeah.
sweet. All right, this next one here, I'm excited to hear about. Let me
Well,
go.
hear about where you were when this released in 2007, my guy. So my pick for 11-12, I wanted to shout out this game because Mario goes to space, right? Sounds pretty cool. So much more so, in fact, that one of the kind of like big rumors, or what we're finding out now in the last couple days, is the next Nintendo Direct is going to be focused on the movie version of this game, right? But this one was easily one of the best games on Wii. This thing sold like hotcakes. This was one of the system movers, I felt like, beyond like the usual like Wii Fit or the Wii Sports that you'd see. But this one felt to me. I'm not saying it is or it wasn't, but to me it felt like this was Mario's return to 3D platforming form. This one just felt like it was a big leap, just because there were so many new mechanics that were introduced with this, and the fact that you were in space now, you can go to a bunch of different planets, and there was also like some actual story elements to it too. So it was one of those games that I felt like, hey, if we're looking at games released on this day, I feel like this was kind of a landmark one. Galaxy was a big jump off point, and all the new Super Mario Brothers, the new Super Mario Brothers U, the new Luigi Bros, like all that, I feel kind of extends from Super Mario 64 and then this. I don't know about you guys. You played this back in the day?
I did not.
Nope, didn't have much chance to, but I had been at the very least, keeping an eye on Super Mario Galaxy, and yeah, just seriously, from what I saw of it, it was just, looking at Super Mario Galaxy now, and then looking at stuff like again, like Mario Odyssey and Super Mario Brothers on the Wii U, like Galaxy really was the return to, the return to form for Mario. It was that return to, the classic 3D platforming that we had all come to, know and get used to back with Mario 64.
Yeah, I think because what wasn't the first Mario release on the Wii was the new Super Mario Bros. Right now, it's still 2D, right? So
Yeah.
this was like their Mario 64 equivalent. And of course, you always want like, oh, the next big thing is always exciting, right? So for our
I
favorite
think
games.
more than anything was just the scale of this going big on that size, and then nothing really felt to me like since then. There's been some really good games, don't get me wrong, including the ones on the Switch, but like not on the same scale that this one felt like. So again, it just felt like this tentpole moment. And if we're talking about game releases or game history, like Memory Card Chronicles, like this is a standout point and something I wanted to highlight.
Right on. And it's always a good, it's like every system has their benchmark. You know, like 7 was the first 3D Final Fantasy on that console, right? So technically this is the first 3D Mario on that console as well. So exciting. The controller was like the big thing for me that on the Wii. That's why I didn't really go with it. I wasn't a fan of the movement, right? Like, I'm just a very simple person, I guess. So that's just my take on that. That's why
I
I
had to
didn't
have
really,
the classic controller, man. Plug it into your Wii remote.
it's true. You know, I didn't really know about it till later on. I was just too involved in my PS3 at the time. So
Well, hey man, I can't wait to hear about this next game. A legitimate technology killer that you have highlighted.
for sure. Yeah, and that game is Crysis, the OG.
Oh God.
So you know, this came out in 2007 for the PC, but I feel like this was out or this was teased a little bit before that. Because my buddy Matt, he was huge on this game. He was like, "This is gonna change gaming, right?" It's like, "Bro, I can shoot the trees, and then the trees fall a certain angle depending where I shot them." I was like, "Bro, I don't care." You know what I'm saying? I can shoot the leaves off this tree, and I was like, "Bro, okay." You know, like he was like obsessed with this game. You have gameplay up, right? He talked about it so much. About the technicalities of the game, like the features, because it was so like new, right? And it was like it benchmarked a lot of like video cards at the time, right? Performance wise for your system. Can your system play, you know, can your rig play Crysis, you know, in 60 frames, right? That was so emphasized so hard. I did not even know what the game was about. Like, I did not know it was like power suits and they're fighting North Koreans and there's aliens. Like, I did not know that until I actually like tried to play the game, right? And this on the 360 when they like kind of ported it over, and that was basically it. That I was like, oh, and it was already too late. I was already disinterested because my buddies hyped it up so much, and I was just like, I don't know, you know, whatever. That's literally how I felt. Like whatever, you know.
Yeah.
What about you? What about you guys?
I really feel like that's a lot of people's experience with Crysis. I mean, it was my experience as well. I have no bloody clue what the game is about. All I know it for
I think it's ironic.
It's like all I know it for is just, does your rig have the horsepower to play it? And I'm sitting there like, Crysis? Nah, man, I ain't risking my shit. Let me slap some Mugen, a couple of emulators, DFO, and I'm good.
Yeah, I'm sure my rig wasn't able to play this. I was barely playing Heroes of Might and Magic 3 on mine. So
Jago's in chat talking about never understanding Crysis. I will be completely honest. Like I did play this game back in the day. The big draw behind this was just like the whole meme of can it run Crysis. There was nothing with this kind of graphic fidelity that looked this good or potentially could look this good on the market at the time. You have to remember like how big Far Cry was, the ability to run around on those tropical planets, how good it looked. And then this thing came along and just looked incredible. On top of that, there was the whole like started like the meme culture behind it. It's like what can run Crysis, and the fact that it would set your house on fire, or hey, you'd finally have heat during the winter. Just turn Crysis on your PC. You'll keep warm. You'll keep your entire place warm. So much so that even the Crysis remaster that came out in 2020 had a setting in it that was called "Can it run Crysis?" setting, like just set it at like ultra, right? So, man, there was just something about it, and I didn't even finish the game back in the day. I just ran around the island when it wasn't melting my PC. I just ran around the island. I didn't even realize that how much more to the game. Like it took a left turn and you're fighting all kinds of aliens and stuff at the end of it. I remember getting to like a kind of like a 0G level and just couldn't get past it at the time back in the day. So I'd never have finished Crysis, but I just remember being blown away. It was about the graphics. It was about that like status symbol of just like, yeah, I bought a thing or I've built a system that can run Crysis. It's like that made you cool. It wasn't so much that it was the game. Like if you look at it, it's a little basic, but it's still cool. Like that's what I got from it.
That honestly, it's one of those marketing things. Like we're talking about it now, but like they focus so much on its performance that the game itself was ignored.
Pretty much.
This is my take on it.
Its aura was
Yeah, there you
it
go.
was aura farming before we knew what it was.
It was bitrate farming. That's what it was.
It was just killing. It was just killing people.
All right. Well, this is a game I've not played, but I've seen Ace played on stream, and it seems to be on your list too. So
yeah, Ace, why don't you tell me a little bit about this, man?
So, Skies of Arcadia, like when it comes to games that are, frankly, system sellers, I never would have pegged Skies of Arcadia to be one, mostly because, when I got my Dreamcast, it was Sonic Adventure and all them fighting games.
Nah, good man.
I saw a couple of screenshots from Skies of Arcadia, saw some of the character designs. It looked interesting, so I thought, you know what? I'd already played stuff like Evolution and Time Stalkers, so why not give Skies of Arcadia a shot? And I could do a whole episode on Skies of Arcadia, frankly. Like I could just do a straight up review and take like 20, 30 minutes out of this right now. But for folks that are actually looking for a game that just calls back to not just traditional turn-based gameplay, but also just, classic fantasy adventure, you can't really go wrong with this. I mean, everything from not just the airships that you can get, as well as the ones that you encounter in the game, but also being able to explore the different floating continents, and eventually, building up your character's reputation. And, once you hit a certain level, as your reputation actually goes up through the different discoveries you can make around the map, you can unlock more crew members for eventually your hideout. And those crew members will actually be able to, give you bonuses, not just for, character progression and maintenance, but also bonuses in battle too.
Well, yeah, if anything, I just really want to point this out as something that is definitely worth mentioning. We're talking about the history of gaming. We're talking about memories you've made, or something that's just like a standout we want to highlight. I played this well after the fact. This one was something that stood out to me, though, of the time on Dreamcast, the year 2000, getting to have like free exploration in a big like 3D sky world through an airship, like absolutely sign me up. But the thing that really stuck with me beyond that was just like the graphics for the time, the music, the characters, and that kind of blend of combat you were kind of talking about a little bit there. There was traditional combat that we kind of saw on the screen just a second ago, as well as ship-based combat. Like, it gave you a couple different ways to play in the game and explore, which for at the time when you're talking about, like you said, like a new console coming out and they got to try to sell it, man, this kind of put it on the map, for something I needed to sell a little bit more, to be honest.
and a teensy bit of development trivia for you. All the visuals in the game were done in Macromedia Flash.
No way.
Nice.
That's crazy.
Nice. You heard it here first, folks.
Yep.
Maybe not.
Skies Arcadia was made by Macromedia Flash. What are you doing?
Right, this is the logical next step of Flash games.
Speaking of something that probably should have just been a Flash game in the end, let's highlight the next day.
Oh, you got it, buddy. I'm excited. Much excite. Well, why is this back? Get out of here.
Bye, Skies of Arcadia.
Here we go.
Oh, boy.
I got nothing. Go ahead.
Let's talk about gaming. Let's talk about gaming memories, my friend. Let's talk about one of the worst games ever made, and something that was a notorious flop when it came out in the year 2006, Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. So let's at least take this moment to recognize the death of a beloved blue mascot at the time. F's in the chat. This thing stunk. It was really kind of awkward. The story that happened with it, like this game, man. I don't know if anyone actually got around to playing it besides like me back in the day.
Holding a woman?
Yes. So that's his basically his love interest in
Oh
this game.
boy.
Yeah, no, he had a lot of things not going for it. And then the exploration, they'd really tried to bring this into the new generation, which is more like exploration, more story, trying to build out Sonic. It was definitely of the era, but it was bad at everything. So, yeah, man, just had to call this out. Sonic luckily has come a long way since. Now he's got a great racing game. He's had some really good, like the Chronicles re-release. But yeah, this thing was atrocious. Let's call it a little bit of history right here and really talk about the fact that this game just sucked.
And funny enough, there are actually folks out there recompiling and basically getting in there and remaking this.
Oh, good.
Great.
Dr. Robotnik's got your girl, Sonic. What you gonna do?
Did you cry?
Yeah, it was. Man, I don't know. There's a multitude of videos out there. We'll talk about it in Discord and sometime, or just hop on a Discord and feel free to start a long explanation about why you love this game or why you don't. There's been a lot of videos that have come out breaking this thing down, but yeah, I just wanted to highlight this one, man. On the 14th,
Right on.
came out.
Hey, that Dr. Robotnik sure looks pretty good, like Jim Carrey. So that's pretty cool. All right, here's my not my least favorite Final Fantasy, but definitely not my favorite. Whose was this?
That was me.
All right, tell us more.
But Final Fantasy IX, I wanted to go ahead and discuss this one because much like how Super Mario Galaxy was very much a return to form, a return to the form that was established with Mario 64. Final Fantasy IX felt like it was touted as the same as far as being a return to form, as far as like the more classical fantasy setting for a mainline Final Fantasy game, because the last two games beforehand, and the more popular ones, definitely, Final Fantasy 7 and 8 definitely had more of a modern, or at the very least more of a more of a future punk kind of setting and design palette to it. But with Final Fantasy IX, it definitely harkened back to, in many different cases, not just the the more cartoony style rendering for the characters from back in 5 and 6, but also a lot of it made closer and closer references to Yoshitaka Amano's artwork as opposed to the work put forth by Tetsuya Nomura.
Yeah, it was like a harken to like the old school Final Fantasy, right? I mean, there was nothing wrong with it, honestly. It just wasn't my when I was of age during that time. Just wasn't my style, because 8 was my favorite during that time. So I think the Disney-ish characters to me was like I wasn't having it, because I just had. I mean, like 8's in contrast to this is totally different.
Yeah,
that was just more my speed.
And I mean, you could say that this was actually, at the time, it was the most recent Final Fantasy game that was more of a cult classic compared to, the ones with the more widespread appeal and success, like 6, 7, and 8.
Would you say that this one is maybe their attempt to go back to a little bit more of like what made them classically good?
Yeah, I think so
it was
too.
Kind of trying to go back to it after like 7 going so big, 8 kind of like trying to continue that, and 8 maybe not doing as well as 7.
Dude, 8 is crazy. Let's just say that. It's not your standard Final Fantasy game. But playing this 9, I'm not a fan of it, but like it made me feel like I was playing 6, and which is a good thing. Right? So I got to give it its flowers for sure.
Yep.
Cool.
And nowadays, more and more people are actually, going back and playing Final Fantasy 9, and they're also, there are a lot more people that are actually speaking up as far as the quality of the game itself, the quality of the characters, the storytelling. As far as like any abiding memories I have of Final Fantasy 9, your boy accidentally squared up with the super boss.
Sounds about right. Sounds like you.
And I got stopped. It was
That's what you get.
Well, it was I got beat so bad, I was laughing about it for the next hour and a half because it was just like I was hopelessly, hilariously outgunned.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's pretty crazy because this last year, I remember about 6-ish months ago, I want to say, there was all those rumors kind of swirling about a Final Fantasy IX remake, like
Yeah.
insiders claiming that yeah, it's definitely being made, it's in development, and then the anniversary came along and we got nothing, or at least nothing substantive about like a follow up. But rumors have been around for like years now. I want to say like 2021. That was that Nvidia leak that kind of came out. That was kind of like pointing towards that project happening. So yeah, I don't know. It's pretty crazy that we haven't gotten a follow up
If
to
they
this.
do a remake of this, I would love it if they just go crazy on the art style and do like a hand drawn like art look to it. It would be so cool.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say about that. So
What
sweet.
else you got to talk about?
Man, I am obsessed with consoles today because the
We're
next
getting into
day
that like holiday season. I get
I
it.
know,
I
I
get it.
know. On the 15th, our last day of the week, though, the PS4 came out in 2013. Yes, the
Happy
PS4 in 2013. It is what, 12 years old? Oh my goodness. My first thing to this was, when did you get your first PS4? How did you get it? And what was it like? For me, I almost waited 2 years to get one. I just loved my PS3 so much. I have a Blu-ray player. I was playing my PS2 games, PS1 games. It had so much value that I had no interest in getting a PS4 until my PS3 died. So I was like, "Hey, it's a good time for an upgrade." And then what do you call that? I think I bought this myself at like a Best Buy, and it ended up being the slim one with the rounded edges, not the sharp edge one. And it was like 120 gigabyte one or something like that. And yeah, it was like it was a well-deserved upgrade, but I just felt like I didn't need to make the jump when it first released because I was just still having fun. And I think that's what's most important.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I definitely jumped on the PS4 train early because at the time I had some extra spending money when it released.
Those are always good.
Yeah, it was a good time. I was also back at school and didn't have as many expenditures because I was like just renting a smaller place, and I had just gotten back into college at the time. Like I had I dropped out early, decided to go back to school with a program that zeroed out your GPA and let you like reapply and go back in. And so, of course, it really helps my studying habits when I decided to buy a PS4. But I remember buying the original one, the 2-tier original one, and then I
Yeah.
upgraded to the Pro. I bought the PS4 Pro down the line, and I didn't look back. The Pro I still have, I still use. I really enjoy it. I bought a lot of PS4 games, and as evidenced by the sheet I've shared with these guys before, I have a lot of steel books for this um, system. I really, really jumped into PlayStation really with this generation. So didn't get it day one, but man, it's definitely something that it's probably my favorite of that generation compared to the Xbox One. Um, and I put a lot of time and effort building up my collection when I was working for that company still.
Nice. What about you, Ace?
For me, well, even though this did come out on my birthday that year, I was pretty much in the same boat. I had my PS3, had all the games that I was playing on it, games I was importing. I was still able to play my. Mine wasn't fully backward compatible with the PS2, but mine could still play PS1 games, so I was, all over that. And of course, I was also using my PS3 for, for the reviews for the hooligans and also for my character walkthroughs. So this was this was the main part, the cornerstone of my gaming arsenal at the time. So I wasn't too keen on picking up a PS4 just yet. But in 2014, one of my friends had actually, he reached out to me like mid-January, and he's like, "Hey man, I want to send you some stuff. I'm out here in Florida. What's your address?" So, I gave him my address, and I thought, okay, he's probably gonna like, send me a card or some letters because we're old school like that. We still write sometimes. On his birthday, February 16th, the same day that Deadpool hit theaters, I get this box in the mail and I'm going, wait, what? I take it into my room, set it on the bed, crack this bad boy open, and it's a PS4. And then my friend calls me up. He's like, hey, Ace, happy birthday. And I'm like, but today's your birthday. Yeah, but I wanted to get you this for your birthday last year. So I figure, why not make me happy by giving someone else a gift?
There you go. That's awesome. Your friend's pretty cool.
Yeah. And of course, this
Wholesome.
right? And the same guy that gave it to me, this is like literally my first and one of my closest friends since middle school.
Right on. Yeah, I have a buddy in Illinois like that too. We used to play World of Warcraft all the time. I haven't heard from him in a while, so I should probably check it out.
He's probably waiting for Burning Crusade Classic.
Oh my gosh, probably
Classic Plus to hit.
Yeah, yeah, man. World of Warcraft. That's a topic. Speaking of Warcraft,
yeah, why
right?
not? Let's get into it.
Why not? Let's get in there.
Sweet for this one, but I wanted to call out one of my favorite games, or at least one of my favorite series with its release. 11/15 in the year 1994, my friends. Some gaming memories here for you, some gaming history. Last year at this time when we were on the podcast, I called out the original Halo, but since I already covered Halo 2, I really wanted to zig a little bit and highlight Warcraft 1. This one really takes me back. I remember cutting my teeth on RTS on PC back in the day. That's pretty much all I played.
Yeah.
A lot of Warcraft, a lot of Command & Conquer, Red Alert. But this one really stuck out to me because it's fantasy setting, and I love this kind of like top-down feel to it and the way you were building. Just I remember the sprites and stuff standing out to me.
It's so good.
So much so that when I went to go visit my uncle in Australia years after this release, I remember playing this on his PC and I had forgotten about it because I just had done so many other things and I was a little bit older. Like this, I was really young when this first came out, so I didn't really have a chance to play it. I played it, years after, and I didn't realize it because I never found out the name of that game. I was playing it with my super young cousin at the time, in the chair next to me. I found out well after the fact it was Warcraft 1, and the re-release that came out recently, I really enjoyed as well. Really takes me back. But yeah, man, there was just something about this just kicking off everything.
Look at that artwork, bro. Look, it's so cool.
Yeah, the artwork goes hard. The sprite work was great. And like I said, man, all I really played back in the day were RTSs. Do you two play Warcraft 1 when it launched or near its launch?
Oh, yeah. Like that. I'm watching this screen right now, and I feel like I legitimately feel like I'm back in middle school. Because, once again, my buddy Bruce, the guy that got me the PS4, he picked up Warcraft, and that was a lot of, that was a hell of a lot of what we would play, when I was chilling over at his place. And also, again, this was 94. So I was back in 5th, 6th grade. So even before I met Bruce, one of my other friends from class, I'd hang out at his place over the weekend. It's like, we got Super Street Fighter, we got FX Fighter, and we got Warcraft. And that was our Saturday nights. We would stay up till at least 2, 3 in the morning playing this.
Yeah. I mean, I could spend the same as we were talking about earlier. I could spend an entire podcast or an entire night just talking about my memories with this and how it stands out and the character behind it. But I know we need to move on, but I really just wanted to highlight this one for us before we shuffle through the night. And just in case, we come to next year and I don't have a chance to call out this one in particular if we're still doing this, man, I got to highlight Warcraft 1.
I just remember seeing this box on Micro Center on the shelf, and it is a big box too. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, this is so cool. And I think the time that I got a hold of Warcraft was when Warcraft 2 Tides of Darkness demo just came out. So I was just in shock how cool it looked. So no, that's pretty sweet. Love that. All right, guys. Well, that's is that it? Oh, we got one. We have one more, right? Yeah. Ace, yeah, this is a big one because I partake in this one also.
I partake.
I partake in this one. I gotta find this here.
So yeah,
go ahead and start.
My pick for my birthday was one that honestly came as a bit of a surprise to folks, especially ones that were playing the vanilla game. But my pick, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Honestly, a certified classic. There was still a lot of action on, the classic game. And, when I first picked it up 6 months prior, so literally we're talking like April, May, I, first picked this up on my Xbox 360. And, I was, I was getting used to, using characters using like Cap, Spencer. Actually, my team was Cap, Spencer, and Chun-Li at the time. But when Ultimate came out and, there was an additional 12, 13 characters added to the roster, it was, it was pretty big for a lot of positive and for a lot of negative reasons. Because, folks had already invested so much in the vanilla version that when Ultimate came out 6 months later, instead of it being just, a DLC expansion, it was popped out as its own standalone disc. Got a lot of flack for it, but the game itself was solid, and it proved to still be a good time even to this day, especially with the community on Steam going through and making all these updates and character swap mods. The most recent character swap mod actually came out, which brings John Talbane and Cable into the game.
Pretty sweet.
So for a starting effort, Ultimate Marvel 3 was definitely something special.
And it continues to be special in the hands of mods.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yeah, I just remember doing tournaments at Tilt with you as you were working there. I think we just had tournaments like once a week or something with this game, and there was a lot of memories with that.
Awesome. And it was also the source of one of my first walkthrough series on YouTube as well.
It's true. Put it in the chat. I want to watch it.
Yep, I will try and dig that up.
All right, guys. Well, that's this week's Memory Card Chronicles. Beautiful. All right. Next one here is going to be Quick Bites with, as always. God, it's so cool. Why is that so cool? Anyway, Nick, go ahead.
It's so cool because it's an awesome sound. As always, this is our favorite time to bring up just a little rapid fire roundup of the biggest stories, updates, and kind of whispers in the gaming world. So not only are we going to get a little bit of some confirmed news, we're also going to talk about a little bit of rumors this week. I'm going to actually sit through the entire thing unless my power goes away. Before we get to the articles that the panelists have brought to the table, I just want to highlight some very quick headlines just to keep people abreast with what's happened in the last week, just to make sure you're not missing on little tidbits that you need to know as we're chatting in Discord, as we're chatting in chat right here with our friendly viewers. But let's kick this off with the PlayStation 5. We've already talked about it a little bit tonight, but a article just kind of came out this last week that was talking about how the PlayStation 5 has officially outsold every Xbox console ever. It has just hit 84.2 million units sold. Sony just announced that over the last 3 months, another 3.9 million units were sold, which is an increase over last year. So year over year, it's still going up. This is despite the fact we saw those price increases recently. So, hey man, PlayStation's outsold every Xbox console ever. That's wild. Moving on from that, we're going to talk about Borderlands 4. According to Steam charts, Borderlands 4 has already dipped under 20,000 for their peak player count on the platform. While that isn't a small number when you're just looking at it by any means, it's a massive drop-off from the launch of the game. It has actually broken the record for the franchise, losing more players in the same amount of time after launch compared to the rest of the series. So it's already dropped off that far. This is a couple days after Take-Two's CEO Strauss Zelnick stated that Borderlands 4 launch was, quote, softer than expected. So we're already starting to see that fall off. Speaking of fall off, let's talk about Fallout. Fallout 4 is being review bombed right now on Steam. People are super upset about the anniversary edition release. I don't know if you two have been keeping up with the news on that, but I thought it was talking about right now because it's kind of being branded a money grab. Discussions of how it has really kind of disrupted the game's modding scene. The recent update has broken the game even without mods activated. a lot of people are asking, like, why push out Fallout 4, which had already had special versions before? Why not 3? Why not New Vegas? Right now, we've just got word that, Fallout 3 remastered or remake is in development, but why push this out? It kind of makes it seem like a little bit sus. Add on top of that, the cost. All the content that's in this was in the Game of the Year edition already released, except for the creations bundle, most of which are skins and paint jobs that we've seen if you kind of go through the list. The anniversary edition itself is $40. But if you already have the game, the base one, it's only $20 for the upgrade. That gives you the DLC essentially for that price. But if you already have the Game of the Year edition, just be very careful when you go to buy it if you want that update. There's no reduction in prices if you already have the DLCs. You're just basically spending that cost again to get this anniversary edition, which is apparently breaking the game and making people extremely upset.
Oh, damn.
We got a pair of events in the news. We kind of alluded to it earlier, but Nintendo's new Direct is tomorrow. It's focused on the Super Mario Galaxy movie that's coming out. So we already know the Super Mario Brothers movie did gangbusters, sold incredibly well. So Galaxy is the next move. If it does anything like the Wii game we talked about earlier and really opens it up and does well, another blockbuster on their hands. We'll see how well it sells. If you didn't happen to see it today, Sony did have their new State of Play. It happened today, and it was focused on Japan and the Asian market. That one happened at 2 o'clock. I hopped on and watched it. I had my 5-month-old with me. I sat her in her chair. We watched it together. Just a couple quick things. There wasn't anything super new, just kind of a couple clarifications, a couple new screenshots and stuff. I'm just going to highlight a couple of the big ones. Fatal Frame 2, its remake is out in March this next year. Dynasty Warriors Origins, Ace, the first DLC, that's
Looks
coming
good.
out soon.
Yep.
Looks real good. That's coming out in January. They showed off a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Tokyo Extreme Racer is back. That's coming out in February. It's the first time it's been on PlayStation in 20 years. So fun for kind of like arcade racing fans. We also got another look at Arc System Works' BlazBlue Entropy Effect X. That was shown off. Looks like a great side-scrolling with amazing effects. So the effects you know from the fighting games and Arc System Works as a whole looks to be present in that game too. Looks great. New RPG from the Disgaea team out in January. Octopath Traveler 0 is out December 4th, but the demo is available today, and they did announce that save data from the demo, which is about 3 hours of gameplay, will carry over into the actual game when it releases. So if you want to kind of get a jump on it, get a feel for it, that's apparently available. For you two, talking about MVC3, or MVC3, Marvel Tokon was shown off again. I know you two are hyped for it. I love the character designs for that, the blending of the kind of like Japanese anime market and the Western animation. I think it's going to be awesome. They just announced the second closed beta test, which will be happening in December. They will have 8 fighters to try and a new environment as well. So definitely check that out. If you're interested, you can sign up online. I think it's international when they announced it. So that's pretty cool. That's coming up real soon. We're moving on. That was from that. Let's talk about BioWare, one of my favorites, and we got new convert James here on the panel.
Thanks.
N7 Day came across our calendars. I love N7 Day just because we get some fun new stuff to talk about Mass Effect. I love Mass Effect. So what was this year about? Well, it was still celebrated, at least by the company. There was a blog post. Hooray. They did at least confirm that Mass Effect 5 is still in development. It will have romance options. So hooray. We know that's coming back.
That's an odd thing to feature.
Yeah, well, they had to call that out, so we know there will be relationships. With the talk of the takeover, the acquisition of EA as a whole, there's a lot of concern that's going to be happening with that, especially with teams like BioWare, which don't fit like a very conservative worldview with a lot of their writing and romances. So we'll see what comes from it. We haven't had any clarification beyond that about where the project is in development, other than that it's still likely very early in development. They also took time during that blog post to say the Mass Effect TV show, which was announced last N7 Day, will tell an original story that's set in the established universe taking place after the events of Mass Effect 3. So we've got a time frame, we've got an idea of what's going to be happening with that, and hopefully it doesn't end up like the Halo's TV series. So, fingers crossed. Texas is in the news. Texas is suing Roblox. Who would have thought? They're suing with a child safety lawsuit. Yep. they're actually joining 2 other states that have already done the same.
Yeah.
So child safety is at the forefront of their mind, and now Texas is suing Roblox. In case you missed it, Grand Theft Auto 6 has been officially delayed. Boo! I know that.
Oh no.
Yeah. Oh no. Ooh. Um, with that in mind, with it now looking at the November 19th release date, there's been a lot of economic reports that have kind of come out and kind of studied it. Well, some latest reports, including like those from finance professor Rob Wilson, mentioned that this delay can easily cost Rockstar another $500 million in development costs, marketing, lost value. It's pretty crazy. So how you feeling about that $100 price tag now, boys?
Lost value is such BS because, like, they just want the money in a certain amount of time because it's going to make way more than they actually estimate it to be. Like, as far as like the game itself.
There's always there already a lot of rumors about how much this game costs, like over $1 billion. Like just adding that much more now, it's definitely going to be over that. Like, oh man, I could see the arguments beforehand about keeping around 80. I don't know if I can see that sticking at 100 anymore, man. Or sticking at 80. Not
the
going
crazy part is
anymore.
people are going to buy it regardless. It's
Oh
just
yeah,
people are just obsessed with this game.
I am completely at fault for that as well. I said the same thing. Like, yeah, I'll buy it at 80. Yeah, I'll buy it at 100. I'm
Yep.
sure Rockstar took that and like, okay, let's just delay it. Let's polish it. Obviously, this is coming at a time where it might be getting distracted a little bit. I won't jump into the news too much with that just because we already have a lot of news we've kind of talked about. But there's been a lot of stuff talked about how this is happening at the same time that Habit with layoffs lately, but with Rockstar laying off a bunch of employees recently, kind of saying that was due to them releasing sensitive information and gross misconduct, but a lot of people are coming out and saying it was actually union busting as well. So this is on the backdrop of this being delayed. Who knows what's going to happen with it? It's kind of crazy. It's a crazy time at Rockstar, and for some people that may taint the release, but at the same time, it's going to sell like crazy anyway. So who knows what it's going to be. Anyway, that's the quick bites for this week. I'm going to hand it over to James, who has the first article that he wanted to show off to the class and talk a little bit about.
I do. I'll pop it off right here. All right, so let's go to this mode here. So I just wanted to highlight this real quick because it kind of struck a chord in me. You guys know it's Streamer Shroud and this whole like Game of the Year situation where he's telling all his like viewers, don't let Expedition 33 win Game of the Year because he's obsessed with Arc Raiders. And so to me, and I just was like, this just kind of hit me differently because it's like an influencer telling its fans to vote for a game that he likes, not in a game in its own merit. Like it's not letting like the gamers decide. And I think that was like a really awkward way, or just just hit me wrong to be like, well, this is not right. Right.
It's better that you're talking about this than I am.
Well, I'm not emotionally charged by it, but I just don't think it's appropriate for a streamer to say, hey, don't let this game win Game of the Year.
Oh, exactly.
That's the part that hits me the most. It's like, hey, you should pick out the game that you like. That should be the way these influencers are, their tone. But I'm not like the tone police, but it just feels wrong. And coming from somebody that's influential. First of all, my 2 cents, pick a game that you like, regardless of your favorite influencer. If you like it or not, just vote with what you enjoy. And personally, and I think somebody said this, it might have been Asmongold actually. He said, Arc Raiders is cool and all, but will this game be played a few years from now when it's dead? While Expedition 33, you can load up anytime and just play the story. It's like reading an interactive book, right? It's just kind of timeless like that. So there's just like 2 differences because of the live service nature of the game, right? Versus a game that you can just load up, play, drop it, and come back later at your own pace. There's no FOMO, there's no multiplayer, etc. So it's even like two different types of games to be arguing about. So, and this is funny because earlier I shared a post on social media with you guys about this kid saying, yeah, I don't see the like the allure of Expedition 33 because after I beat everything, there was nothing left to do, right? And then the guy below that said, like, bro, it's like it's a timeless game. Clearly a fan, right? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I actually looked at the age of that person commenting of the first comment, and they were a kid. And that brought something to my attention, is that kids now, when they're playing video games, are wired to have season passes, battle passes, and live service now in their video games, that when they beat a game, they expect the game to keep going. Right. And the guy below that was like, bro, you're just done with the game. You've maxed out. There's nothing else. Right. And so we're just not in the same generation anymore. Right. So,
Right. And
yeah.
and honestly, like, that right there, that's not what would get me emotionally charged. Someone says they don't see the allure of Expedition 33, that's that's fine. That's their thing. Again, it's a generational thing. A lot of younger gamers have come up in this era where, there is live service. There's continuing support for one game that goes over like 5-6 years on average. So, they're not used to playing a game and actually being done with it. And that's how it works out.
Yeah.
But
I
again,
think
No,
to
go
hop
ahead.
in there really quick.
Yeah, please.
Just in response to this, like Blue said in chat, that's not how the awards work. He's fine for stating his opinion, thinking that he thinks it's the game of the year. The panel on these places, on these award panels, are going to be the ones that decide game of the year. There can always be a fan vote. The fan vote is in there, especially at the Game Awards. Jeff Keighley will talk about the fan vote one, and this one
right.
could end up being the fan vote win. So him stating it, I've got kind of the two sides of the coin. On the one, he's fine to say it's his favorite. He suggests people should vote for it. Like, whatever, that's his right as a gamer and having his platform. The other side of it is like, don't vote for that Expedition game. That's a dumb take.
Yeah, that's the
Kinda
part
like
I'm mad about, really.
That's
That's
more
about
so.
it.
Not that
Yeah.
he had an opinion. I'm more so upset. It's just like, screw that one game. And that's just kind of shitty. It's just shitty behavior.
Yeah, bad taste.
Again, same thing. People in the chat were talking about it. Andre, Ace is already going to vote for Dynasty Wars Origins. You don't have to convince him.
He's voting for the DLC. It's not even out
bully
yet.
him. That's like you're bullying him to pick Arc Raiders. Like, yeah, sure, that makes more sense. But yeah, no, that's more so my take on this. And we've talked before a lot of times about how the gaming industry as a whole follows trends or follows the money. That's where the money's being made, is in live service. They're incredibly risky, but when you hit big, and you're good for a very long time. So a lot of people are used to it because that's what's being made, because that's what's the most profitable. We've talked about this splintering going on in the industry. We can see that in a lot of different communities right now, talking about indie games. A lot of these indie games are not live service titles. They're small, contained stories because that's what they can do on their budget, or that's what their vision is. So something with a clear vision being done. I don't think it's people get to the end and they're too worried about like, oh, there needs to be more content. I think there's just people not feeling it's worth their value, and that could be where the arguments more so headed, kind of thing. I think Expedition has a great value. It wasn't a hugely priced game, and it offered a lot for it. So I think that's what a lot of people they have it in their Game of the Year edition, especially coming from a small team. Kind of came out of nowhere. They had a vision, they had a design, and it was well executed. So as games go, I'm in the brewing industry now, and one thing that kind of gets brought out often is anyone can kind of make a beer. It's just, can they make a good beer? And then beyond that, when you talk about something like lagers, not to get technical with it because I still don't know everything. I'm still very new to the industry as well, but making a good lager requires a lot of technical knowledge. It's having your ingredients, it's having your recipe, and then executing. That's going to make the difference. And the same can be said for games, in my opinion. It's just like, yeah, you can make a game, but can you make a well executed, technically good game and get people behind it and people interested in it? That's going to make a better game to me. And that's when those arguments about game of the year, for me, last year's game of the year was Metaphor. I think that was an incredible game from the back. It was technical. Masterpiece to me. But if you take a step back from the personal side of it, I could see why some people would like Arc Raiders. But when I'm talking about technical games, what it offers, it's nothing new to me besides the setting. Anyway, that was my jump in from that.
Yeah.
Neat.
And again, my main thing was, again, it's just if you're trying to, if you're trying to use your influence to literally tell people, what they should play or what they should vote for, nah, your head is definitely in the wrong place. And I can think of a few places where it might be if we're trying to find it, but that's another topic for another time.
Play
For
Tetris
sure.
It's good. All right, that's it. That's all I got.
All right, let me jump to my article now. It's on my shared screen. I have to ask, chat panel, where did Destiny 2 go wrong?
I could tell you because I recently quit. Well, not recently, but it's been a couple years. Buying an expansion and then having to buy a season pass within that expansion, ultimately costing me probably around $80 per expansion. That's a no for me, dog.
Ace?
That's it.
Well, I'm not someone that plays Destiny, but seeing, just seeing the type of monetary stranglehold that Destiny 2 has had on its players, and this, outside looking in. So I'm sitting on the other side of the fence over here playing the First Descendant, playing Warframe, specifically Warframe, and seeing what's going on with Destiny 2, and it's like, yikes, dog. I'm sorry. And I'm seeing people who used to play Destiny 2 coming over to play Warframe, and they are legitimately having PTSD because they are not constantly getting, they're not constantly getting financially extracted by the game.
Extracted is a word choice.
I think he kind of knew he was going for what's happening with Marathon too.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring up this article because it was one that was posted earlier today on IGN, but it really highlighted everything that's kind of been happening in the gaming industry lately about the discussion of Bungie and what's been happening to them, and how the game kind of hit an endpoint for its main thrust of a story. I played the original Destiny when it came out. I was super excited about its the opportunity that it presented. I was okay when Destiny 2 came out, and even though I felt like, hey, we had this original game and platform, like, now I got to jump to this. But the game just played so well. I got caught up in it. I got interested in the story, and eventually I just fell off for a variety of reasons. And there's a lot of videos online that will discuss this, but I just wanted to highlight this article because it's talking about Sony's most recent financial report and how it recorded a 31.5 billion yen, which is approximately 204.2 million impairment charge as a result of Destiny 2's underperformance. So much so that the chief financial officer actually ended up saying on the investor financial call, quote, regarding Destiny 2, partially due to changes in the competitive environment, the level of sales and user engagement have not reached the expectations we had at the time of acquisition of Bungie. While we will continue to make improvements, we downwardly revised the business projection for the time being and recorded an impairment loss against a portion of the assets in Bungie. So we know that Marathon is going through a huge problem right now. We know that since those issues with Marathon are re-highlighted previous times that maybe some other art assets during Bungie's Destiny 2 and Destiny creation may have been stolen as well.
Yeah.
All this coming from what was kind of a darling of the industry, and Sony acquiring this was massive, right? There was a huge expose of like internal work culture being an issue at Bungie. Sony ended up acquiring them for $3.7 billion, and this, as we know, is like Sony's push and eyes on the prize for online gaming platforms and service platforms. But clearly Sony saw something, but everyone was like, man, that's a lot of money for this. They must really see something, right? And then we get to where we are now, where Destiny's kind of like fallen off a cliff. Delays, layoffs, soul crushing experiences working for Bungie. And like I said at the very top, like, where did Destiny 2 go wrong? There's so many places. There may be some big stuff you can point back to, but the fact that now Sony is coming out and saying, hey, as it says in the title, this has not brought in as much money as we thought it would. and this might go down as like one of the worst acquisitions. Say what you will about Microsoft and they're like buying, closing, and selling off. This one has been bought and just like constantly pulled out. This dead horse has been dragged out in front of us again, and it's just like, where can they really go from here?
I mean, they lost me because I just felt like I was being charged every time I wanted to, learn more, and I was being, it was just too much. It was $80 per participation every season, right? And I already went through that 3 times, and enough's enough. And I was just like, no, I'd rather go play something else. And I feel like a lot of people echoed that. Like they just got overwhelmed. They're just like, bro, this is insane. Like I'm getting minus like the microtransactions in the game, right? So I mean, I don't know what else, but that's how I definitely felt about it.
Yeah. Well, that's everything I had for the article. I'm super glad that Blue Rybot's here in chat talking about this, because I know Blue might have one or two things to say about this last little bit I just wanted to bring up, and that's our rumor mill. This week, I did want to just kind of focus on one thing. Again, we're a little short on time. I just wanted to bring this up because it's kind of become the zeitgeist again the last couple days. But look, like this week, we can talk about how there are rumors that Ubisoft is working on another competitive multiplayer shooter. Yes, that's a rumor that's out there. Or how the next gen Steam controller is potentially right around the corner. However, there's only really one thing I want to talk about in the rumor mill tonight, you two, and that's the case study that is the current buzz around a little known game called Half-Life 3. We've
Fake
talked a
news.
little bit about this before on the rumor mill. We're always talking about as well when we do this segment how you should always take rumors and leaks as a grain of salt, and always know where you're getting your sources from. Hopium and Buzz are at an all-time high right now in the Half-Life community. That's why I really want to highlight this tonight, and I'm interested to see what Blue or Jagos have to say about this, or any new viewers that are in chat. It's showing off this schizophrenic nature of the Half-Life like subreddit right now. Just seeing people go back and forth on this potential rumor. Posts are like wildly oscillating between laying out a very logical argument for why Half-Life 3 will be announced this month, likely around November 18th. To the other end, where multiple posts are reminding other people, like, hey, nothing ever changes with Valve. Don't put all your hope into reading tea leaves. Like, we've learned from this before, old man. Like, we've gotten our hope up and it's been destroyed, right? So I have this link right here. This is one of the status reports that someone had posted, a summary table. I was thrown into ChatGPT, judging by how it was written, but it's showing all the evidence, reasons, speculations kind of gathered so far about this Half-Life 3 potential announcement. We've heard before about codenames being found in leaks. HLX is the big one that's come around in Steam database backend and on resumes as well. It's suggesting strong signs of this Half-Life game being in development, likely non-VR. There's been a lot of counterpoints because Valve hasn't made any official statements. We did cover the Half-Life anniversary when that came around. We talked about like the art book that's being re-released soon. Um, it's possible there's a lot of overinterpretation of coincidences, but there is a lot of coincidences stacking up, which makes this kind of rife with this thing that's happening. That's why I wanted to have that discussion tonight. On top of that, Valve moved the usual autumn sale to September, leaving an unusual empty like promo window in this November 18th to December 8th time frame. So people are going crazy right now with all kinds of things. This really revolves around an anniversary date for Half-Life kind of falling in this area in this week. Data mining references in 2001s that point to HLX, followed by a recent code associated with changes in dev cycles that point to a project of some kind nearing completion. A lot of like code that kind of indicative of like, hey, we're getting to the end of a development of some kind of game. This is more like trying to clean up everything, right? And it's also kind of that hope thrown into the fact that Valve did change their sales schedule a little bit, meaning that we have this gap. Now, all of this is on the back of Half-Life Alyx with its ending, kind of hinting at a Half-Life 3 tease. And beyond that, how the actor that voices G-Man uploaded a cryptic post on New Year's Eve, kind of hinting that this year is going to be something big. There's been a lot of stuff that have popped up on Reddit and on X and on Blue Sky that, hey, I've just been DM'd that if this is true, next week GTA 6 could actually have its thunder stolen on hype scale. So a lot of people are like, what kind of games? What kind of things could actually come out that could kill or at least overtake GTA 6's hype? If you think about it, Ace, is there a lot of things in the gaming industry that could hop over that kind of level of hype?
Not a lot. I mean,
Not a lot. Yeah,
again, let's just consider the fact that, again, with GTA 6 being moved back to the end of next year, that kind of left a vacuum because there were already so many developers trying to like reschedule and push their games to, not be competing with GTA 6. But now that GTA 6 pushed itself back, there's a vacuum, there's a void. So if there is an announcement for Half-Life 3, that vacuum is all of a sudden going to have a lot of fuel and there is going to be an explosion.
I do think you're right on one hand, like that would leave open a gap. I would counterpoint with Valve has had something like this potentially planned for a long time. They're long game. Valve doesn't change really, and that's what a lot of people are pointing at with a lot of these rumors and why hype has gotten out of control with this. And it served as a good reminder for just like really take a look at things, really understand, take it as a grain of
Oh,
salt.
yeah.
Kind of like Blue said, like if it happens, great. If not, I'm not going to get my hopes up because I don't want it to be crushed again. Me personally, it's like I saw this post on the subreddit for Half-Life, and I saw like all the things laid out. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty convincing. And then the post right after that is just like, hey, don't get your hopes up. Here's why all of this is wrong. Like it's just the whiplash right now in the community is absolutely insane. And that is all capped off with the cherry on top that the most recent update on the back end of Steam has seen data miners pull out details on a new Steam controller that will likely release alongside the Steam Frame, which is Valve's next VR headset. So you remember when Half-Life Alyx came out, it released right with the Index. Valve is about pushing forward new technologies, new platforms, new gameplay experiences. So if this frame is coming out and we've got this new controller, like what flagship title do you think is coming with the frame's release? So, yeah, that's all out there, man. That's what I wanted to bring up for the rumor mill this week. Sorry, a little bit more like long form, a little bit more like discussion point. But I think it's a conversation worth having, and we got some people in chat talking about it. So that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I got this week, boys.
I'll believe it when I see it. Hence why it's
right.
a rumor mill.
Yeah.
All right. That is Rick Bytes Cross Rumor Mill. All right, Ace. Teach them some stuff with the tech. Wait, that's not yours. Where's yours?
Once again, good evening, class. I hope you've all been moving and grooving with last week's homework assignment because now it's time to work on another fundamental that will also expand on your understanding of last session's topic. Now that you've had a chance to really think on the importance of traversal and just knowing the ground on which your chosen arena sits, it's time to focus on what it takes to hold that ground. You're used to, moving around the screen now, or, moving your character or chosen avatar through the peaks, valleys, streets, and stars of your favorite games. But now it's time to work on your line in the sand. It's time to mark that line in the sand and hold that line as you fight your way toward victory. It's not just about your knowledge of attack and defense vectors. No. It's also about how you control and capitalize on them. This is what I like to call the way of the spear. You see, once you start getting into the rhythm of game, it's there are a few things that come to mind that you start taking into account. Things like call and response, pattern recognition, reads, tells, gambits. Once you know your way around the battlefield, the next thing you want to practice is how to control it. For example, want to know why Sagat's such a powerhouse in just about every single game he's in? Space control. Tiger shots of varying heights and speeds to control the horizontal. You got your tiger uppercuts to protect the air, your tiger knee to advance and close distance. And, he's also got those long, strong tree trunks that he calls limbs to control the mid-range with his standard attacks. Then there's other characters like, say, Chip or Cammy that can control space simply by getting there faster than the opposition to squeeze behind their defenses, strike, and get out of dodge before the other guy can say, holy shit, they actually did it. But it's not just fighting games either. Character action, beat 'em ups, shooters, muso, puzzle games, so many more. Damn near every varying type or genre outside of turn-based combat, and even then, turn-based in some cases, places importance on space control. An extreme case of this would be, tower defense games. Like, it's practically the name of the game in that instance. But that right there, just knowing that now that you know how to navigate the field and, knowing how you want to draw your line in the sand so you can, control vectors of attack and defense so that you can actually, you can actually land the win. Oh, crap. And it looks like it might have closed on me. So I'll have to restart this. But you know what? I'm glad it did all the same, because the one game that I actually wanted to bring up as our case study for this week is none other than Project Fight Forever. Give me just a quick sec to deal with these.
That sounds like a long fight
here.
Is that like the Final Fantasy 11 boss? Is he gonna fight for days, nonstop?
Not quite.
12 was pretty close.
This right here is, again, one that I've been showing off a lot recently. But this is the fan-made Final Fight project that's been in the works for a while. So I think it might have probably been because I'd been sitting on it for so long that it actually dropped the game. But I will have the screen share up in just a couple quick seconds, so that way we can actually get this going.
Speaking of fighting games, I can't wait for that Virtua Fighter from the RGG Studios.
Mm-hmm.
That new one.
They did release the new one, a new-ish one, 5 Rebo, which is pretty cool.
Okay. So yeah, screen share still up. So let's go ahead and pull that onto the main stage. Now, in this, much like in all the classic beat 'em ups that this was patterned after, like the classic Final Fight, Streets of Rage, and even the more current stuff like, say, Absalom and Wendigo Blue. One of the big things that you need to be able to do is to control space. You need to be able to keep an eye out for enemies that might be coming in on you while you're trying to do whatever moves or combos you've got lined up. So this would actually be a perfect chance to, kind of show off what I've been talking about these last couple of weeks. And it starts, simply put, with navigating the space. You get used to your lateral movement, you get used to your jumps, and, characters like Cody have certain specials now that, get them moving and covering distance. And you saw how I just got, completely tanked right there. I tried to do that little dodge, and the guy got knocked over.
Got.
That guy's name is Bread.
Because I wasn't paying attention to the space that I needed to control. Now, even though I've got enemies in front of me, it's still going to be a point where I need to be able to interrupt whatever I'm doing fast enough to move into the next move or move into, getting out of dodge. But you'll notice that, enemies are going to try and come up on you from behind no matter what. They're going to try and backstab you, basically. So you have to be able to learn to use your throws to, for example, throw enemies into each other in order to create breathing room. That right there is a textbook basic example of space control. But like I was saying, It's more than beat 'em ups. It's more than fighting games where this is the kind of thing where you've got to keep that space control in mind. Now, Nick, of course, you are the Mass Effect guy. But even with that, I know Mass Effect is more of an RPG than a shooter, I would imagine. But there's still those elements of combat, I would imagine, where you have to use your cover. You have to create choke points in order to make sure that you're not taking enemy fire while dishing out damage yourself, right?
Yep. And you also have to worry about stuff like your squad and what abilities and how it meshes with your team.
Yeah, same. It's that same kind of thing. It's those same kind of dovetailing fundamentals between movement and space control that honestly make up the foundation of any good offense or defense in most games. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and actually turn this over to you guys, and we can go into more detail about your experiences with different games and how utilizing movement and space control, how it really, how those play off each other from your specific viewpoints.
I think the best person to ask about this is actually James. I remember spending time working with him behind the counter, and during breaks, he'd be able to go over and play Dio. And we had a conversation about how this man and his pattern recognition is leagues above mine. I'm really bad at recognizing patterns.
Yeah, so I think what he's trying to talk about is like bullet hell games or like top down or horizontal shooters, right? Or vertical shooters. Movement is still a thing. I think, and spacing is very important in that, because like those bosses, they shoot bullets in certain patterns and waves. And so one of the things that I've noticed, and I try to tell people this, is that a lot of the times they'll do a lot of like excess movement around the map or around the board, trying to like avoid all the bullets, when they all they really had to do was tap left or tap right, because there's only like a certain hurt box of your ship that really gets affected when it gets touched by the by the bullets, by the shot. Also, like if you think about it, if they're shooting like bullets in a spiral, there is like little gaps in those like spirals, and like you said, it was, you have to kind of like follow the movement or know the spacing in between, to this way you don't get hit by that. So I know it's kind of a weird one to kind of switch it to a top-down shooter or a vertical shooter, but it's the concept still applies the same way.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up, is because I felt it had the same kind of idea behind it. Just knowing spacing, knowing how to handle when you should attack, when you should defend or move. And it does remind me a lot of these games and why I wasn't good at them as a kid. These kind of games, the brawlers.
Yeah, I think it was just my tenure with Galaga that really got me good at vertical shooters. Like that was my thing when I was a kid, for sure.
Yeah, completely fair.
And again, it's just like you said. It's just like Andre said. Actually, moving and space control is important in anything, really. Again, this is another one of those fundamentals that you can take it even outside of gaming, and it's into stuff like combat sports like boxing. Again, not just protecting the kitchen. Using your defenses. Keeping the fridge closed so the other guy can't take your snacks. But then it's also being able to corral your opponent with your punches. Using the hooks to corner space outside of outside of straight on strikes, right? But honestly, like when it comes to space control, it's definitely one of those topics where it's one of those topics where it needs to be discussed separately, simply from movement, because that's the kind of thing that will actually help people move from the basics of movement into learning their specific characters, or learning specific characters in a game, and then they can actually move on and have something of a better grasp of whatever offensive or defensive options you might have. And those we might be able to take a look at more in depth next session. But
the crazy thing in boxing, they tell you like one of the best things you can be good in boxing is your footwork. If you're like a good striker but with terrible footwork, you still lose. So
yep. So yeah,
very
footwork
interesting.
is definitely something that's important. But that being said, here's your homework for this week. Pick one character, even if it's the sole character in a single player game. So Jack, Ratchet, Sly Cooper, let's say Clive, if you decide to get into Final Fantasy 16, or if you play something like Devil May Cry, you've got Dante, Nero, and V, or something with a larger roster like say Dynasty Warriors. But pick a character and just take note of what moves that specifically, take note of moves that they have that specifically help you control space above, below, or around your character at various ranges. And at the very least, try to pick like 4 different moves from that character, just so that way you can build on your understanding and give yourself an idea of what they can do and how they apply the principles, not just of the way of momentum, but also the way of the spear. Brome is a great example. So if you get into Absalom, once you finally unlock him, like different trap spells that Brome has, like the Sigil of Hate, the Spiteful Tempest. Just again, just take a look at any of your favorite characters that you decide to use and see what makes them tick, how you use their anti-airs, what situations you use them in. Same with their projectiles, or even with slower characters, just how do you use their kit to draw your line in the sand?
I think we need to have once a month do a top 10 list, and we need to do something about top 10 like names for finishing moves or fighting moves, because I didn't even know who that character is, and just seeing Andre in all caps go Sigil of Hate, Spiteful Tempest, I'm like, hell yeah, like those are awesome. That's so metal. Like, what are we talking about?
Oh, let's just say Brome is unexpectedly metal.
Not as metal as Metal Zangief.
Actually, you know what? Yeah, we'll go ahead and do like a little, tech top 10.
Yeah, I would love to have some more like ability fighting things. Like, I've went down this rabbit hole recently watching Maximilian's like rate the supers, because I'd seen a bunch of them before, but then I started like watching some of the more recent ones I hadn't seen in a while, and just like watching like the Naruto one when he's just like, what is this game, what are these supers, and I didn't realize how cinematic a lot of those were, because I had played some of the originals but not some of the new ones. It's just crazy, man. And that's why I was just like, after seeing like Sigil of Hate, I'm like, I want to see it with that kind of animation. That'd be so cool.
But that being said, we'll get more settled into the tech top 10. Let's just make it, every 4th week we'll do something like that. But for now, practice your space control. Tie that in with the movement that you've been practicing over the past week. And, just remember what I like. Just remember what I like to always say at the end of these sessions. Although this is only the second time I'm saying it, but still, it's a good one to remember. Study hard, train smart, and may your combos always connect. That's the tech for this week, y'all.
Nice. Yeah, you got to give me the Dynasty Warriors theme that like we talked about.
Oh God, there's so many. Like, which one?
No, he knows which one I'm talking about.
Okay.
He knows which one. He
It
forgot to
like,
send it to
God,
me.
that's Lu Bu.
No, it's not that one. It's not that one. Speaking of Lu Bu, I would say he's technically not the final boss of the game, but he sure acts like one. So, I mean, there is really no final boss in Dynasty Warriors, but Lu Bu qualifies for that when he chases you around all across the map. So, all right, guys. So it's time for the final boss. For guys that don't know what that's from, that's actually the rival fight screen in Street Fighter 4. So a lot of Street Fighter in this season, right? So I like it. Pretty cool. All right, so this theme, the theme of tonight's final boss is play on hard mode, like I mentioned earlier from conversation. Let's see here. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, let me explain. You ever load up a game and see that screen? You got easy, you got normal, you got hard. And for a second, you just hover your thumb, twitching, your brain whispering, maybe just normal. I'm not really in the mood to get beat up, because hard mode isn't forgiving. Enemies hit harder, checkpoints are scarce, every mistake costs you something, right? But you know what else hard mode gives you? Purpose. Now, what I mean by this is, look at Dark Souls, right? You don't beat that game. You earn every inch of it. Your progression from that is from you adapting and adjusting to the game and its difficulties, okay? You study it, you study every boss pattern, every opening, every dodge frame, until finally, after dying 27 times to Ornstein and Smoke, you land that perfect parry and it feels like glory. I've been there. Or Sekiro, the game that doesn't hand out mercy at all. Matter of fact, it hands you lesson the hard way. You either learn patience, timing, and rhythm, or you don't make it past the first hour. I have full firsthand experience on this. Also, a game like Cuphead, bright colors, jazzy tunes, hides one of the most brutal challenges in gaming history behind that cheerful grin. Even gaming journalists are afraid of it. And when you finally beat the devil, you just don't celebrate. You respect the grind. You earn that win. Because that's what hard mode does. It strips away luck. It tests your habits, your focus, and your resolve. And life's the same way. When everything's easy, you're not growing, you're coasting. But when you hit a wall, when you get knocked down, you feel the weight of the grind. And that's the moment you start to level up. Failure isn't punishment, it's feedback. Every loss teaches you something if you're willing to learn. Right? So when the world feels like it's cranked the difficulty to max, remember, that's not a curse. That's your moment to master the mechanics of your own life. You're not supposed to breeze through this level. You're supposed to get better because of it. And just like every great player knows, the real reward isn't beating the game. It's who you become while beating it. You've trained, you've leveled up, and you're facing the final boss. Because harder the mode, the greater the victory, right? Repeat that. You trained, you've leveled up, now you're facing the final boss this season. Okay? So folks, remember to play hard, learn harder, face your final bosses. Even in hard mode, has greater rewards, greater victory for you. So that's tonight's final boss moment. I thought about actually putting the One Winged Angels intro theme to that, but then I was like, nah, that's too cliche.
I think my camera froze, but I look like I'm very intently looking at your screen.
Yep.
Can you turn off your camera, turn it back on, like in Restream or no? Oh, that's great. I love that.
Hell yeah, brother.
That intense focus.
That's crazy because it's like it clearly can tell that you're there.
Brother.
Frozen in fear. Frozen in fear.
This is camera hard mode.
That's a great metaphor too, right. GQ. It is, man. Like I'm telling you, and this is funny because I actually had a meeting with the president a couple weeks ago, not a couple weeks ago, but a couple months ago, and we talked about comfort. We talked about kind of what can we do to become a better person? Like this, I had a meeting with him, and we just chatted about self-improvement and seeing what's next, right, for the company and for me. And he pretty much said, I think you're too good at your job, and you're kind of you're bored. And I think like you've just been living in like comfort and you need to change things up. And I was like, okay. I mean, I love the criticism. I appreciate the, I don't like the, you know, the critique, right? And they offered me pretty much a promotion. And, you know, they were like, hey, I think you'd be really good at this, but you're going to have to want it, right? We're not going to force you to take it. So of course I took it, right? And it is like, it's new because I've had my other job for like almost 8 years, like maybe 7 years, right? And this is like my third, fourth month in this new position. It's a better position. There's more opportunity for you to make money. Like we're talking like 100K and so like at first it's scary because it's new, right? It's kind of the point I'm getting at. But you know, I did my research and I started applying those into segments of my daily, hourly, right? And then reapplying myself. It's like when you go from 8th grade, then you become a freshman in high school. You go from the top all the way to the bottom again in the next tier, right? You have to think about it that way, right? And so that's kind of how I felt with this new position. So it's all good. I think it's going to be good for me, and I wanted to share like that little slice of pie with y'all tonight. So, with that said, that wraps up tonight's class. From the old school benchmarks like Crysis to the unforgettable memories of Super Mario Galaxy, we learned that progress in games and in life isn't about easy wins. It's about the lessons we earn when the odds are stacked against us. Ace reminded us to keep moving forward, to find momentum even when we're stuck in the grind. And as always, Leet, the tragically Leet, drop the bytes that keep our heads in the game and our hearts in the story. But the real takeaway? Life's not meant to be played on easy. Every struggle, every setback, every restart, it's training. It's leveling up. You've trained, you've leveled up, and you face the final boss. Because the harder the mode, the greater the victory. And that's it for tonight's class. GG's, guys. Thanks for joining all in chat. Jagos, drop in some, is that a clip in there? Andre, good to see you as always. I think I saw Ultra Bright Guy in there. Blue Right Bot, shout out to y'all. Don't forget, these are available to purchase 10% off using the code year1. All right. If you guys need the link, it's in the Discord. And if you have any questions, let me know. All right. And I don't know what happened to Nick. I think he just...
Oh, no, I'm still here. The camera's
okay.
on.
All right. He's in stealth mode.
Yeah, buy those things. Maybe one day I'll have a new camera.
All right, guys. You have a good night. GG's.
And until next time, class is dismissed.